Hello guys, welcome back to Writer's Tales. In this installment we'll look at Fascists, 1979. Quite an interesting one. Let's not beat around the bush, let's talk about what this story actually is about. So, set in 1979 in London, of course, during the great, what do you call it, the Winter of Discontent and everything else. We've got 4 characters, we do. In this squalor, we do. 2 females, 2 males as well. Let's go for the characters. So we've got Rick, of course, who's a very optimistic, very sort of like, just average shy man, of course. That sort of thing. He just observes the world just around him, really, and obviously he's sort of, I don't know, he's semi oblivious to what is really going on sometimes. Like he's with the whole stuff going on at the moment that's happening in England, of course, and also the arrival of Margaret Thatcher as well. He's just totally oblivious to that. Like he thinks it's just another day in paradise, another day at the office, that sort of thing. You've got Ken, who's this fat, sort of middle-aged man who is a bit on booze, really. He's very sort of clean habits are a bit just like, not the best really in terms of his character or anything like that. Quite gruff around the edges, quite disgusting in some places, and yeah, that sort of thing. We've also got Kitta, who's basically this wannabe punk. She is sort of teenager, early 20s girl, very headstrong, just very into the whole punk thing, of course, dressed in like like bin bags and leather jackets and everything else. Makes her own stuff, wears safety pins and stuff. As a proper person, she's very just just join on the revolution, even though punk is dying out at this point. Really, she's just like wearing like again, so like leather clothes, stuff that she's crafted out of bin bags, really, like that sort of thing. She thinks it's just interesting, really, to herself. And then you got Brittany, who's more, how to describe her? She's sweet and also, again, headstrong, but she's like a woman, like a gal from the swinging 60s, really, like from like 1966, 1967, really. She's from that sort of look, really, wearing like platform boots, wearing like Union Jack dresses and everything else. Like she's just, again, that sort of bubbly woman who's also a bit ditzy as well in some places. She's like that, a bit like that, really. And they all live together in this flat. They do in London, like a bit of a squalor, really. And so in terms of, well, yes, that's the introduction to the main 4 characters that we get in this story. So we get the arrival of Margaret Thatcher. Of course, she comes into 10 Downing Street, of course, and most of the youths and some of the people, of course, are resented this person as their prime minister, of course, and this causes all the friction. Of course, anarchists as well come out, and they want to assassinate Thatcher, and they want cause destruction, cause rioting. But you've also got the little bit of the sort of threat of the Cold War as well between the USSR and USA as well. The whole protect and survive thing, of course, that's all briefly mentioned in this story as well. It doesn't really affect the story, of course. Like, it doesn't end with like a nuclear Armageddon at the end or anything like that. No, it's just like, it sort of looms. It's like in the background, in which like people are talking about this sort of thing. There's like news, radio, news as well, a little bit of TV as well, just to bring on that thing, the sort of thing like between the US and the Russians are basically just at war, are sort of against each other, getting missile crisis, that sort of thing. But the main crux of the story is just that, to do with Margaret Thatcher's arrival. People want to assassinate her, and there's a weird conspiracy going on to do with bombings as well. So Kitta meets up with this guy called Kane, who's basically like this like weird drifter fella, wears long coats and stuff, like very dashing, good-looking man, really. But he's harbouring secrets, he is. And he's a part of this organisation, of an anarchist organisation who deals with the bombings, of course. Sort of like the IRA type thing, really, like what they do in Ireland, really, but harbouring secrets, of course, and planting bombs wherever they can. Actually, they're basically just scaring the public really in that way. The main thing, of course, is just cause a bit of tension, cause a bit of uproar, and cause rioting around London. So that's one thing. So she gets involved with him, of course. Not really into the whole bombing thing, of course, the whole anarchist thing. She just fancies it. Like she thinks she's good looking. He's good looking, really, and sort of interesting. Brittany sort of tries to rally a few people again, like a lot of women to stand strong and everything else during these daft times, and accept power, just be more stronger than ever, really. And she sort of stands in the middle of a crowd somewhere in a town square, whatever, and things like and basically says, she could be the one to be the voice of reason and that sort of thing. Ken is observing his neighbours, like his upstairs neighbours, who are immigrants, who are hiding women up there. And of course, he sort of, these two blokes, these two Pakistani blokes just come in, of course. Yeah, they seem friendly, of course. When you first get to know them, when Ken knows them as well. But over time, he sort of sees women coming in and think, oh yeah, this is my girlfriend when this met a week ago, or anything like that. And basically over time, they sort of joke around saying, oh, she just split up with me and I've found another one actually just yesterday actually. We're sort of going, well, and so I might introduce her to my roommate, also where we live as well, that sort of thing. But he comes to know that they're actually smuggling women, actually prostituting women, that sort of thing, trafficking, that sort of thing, up in the flat upstairs. So he tries to take the matter in his own hands, of course. Rick is just there, he's just observing. I think he does bring on Rick, he does, like just to assist him with what's going on with the whole trafficking thing going on, which is pretty interesting, pretty funny actually. Like Ken is more tough and a bit more gruffer, really. So and whereas Rick is more shy and a bit more polite and everything. Like so, going on a fly type of thing. So interesting. So there's that going on. Nothing else really, to be honest, with that one. So it's like there's 3 different story strands going on through this story, really. But it's a really interesting one. Some seeds of ideas come from when I was in college, really. So this sort of comes up from there. A few other stuff like Everlasting Lines, which I forgot to mention previously, comes from that same thing as well. I don't think any of us do actually. I think the Dreamers as well. Actually, that's sort of, again, bits of it stems from there as well, like from the whole college period. Writing little bits and pieces, of course, and this obviously comes from there. It's interesting because I've always been fascinated with the whole late 70s period. Post-punk is sort of a thing I'm really into. 1979, the music in general is actually pretty interesting. If you look at most of the albums, of course, Unknown Pleasures, Free Imaginary Boys, Night Owl is probably a strange one. Metal Box, Lodger, them sort of albums, like an interesting mix of stuff. Regatta LeBlanc as well, bunch of good stuff. So I thought, why not just set in that sort of era, of course, and to see how 4 characters survive in this sort of future world, and also what they get up to, really. So yeah, that's the whole thing, really. Part of it sort of like comes from Derek Jarman's Jubilee as well, so that's sort of a little bit of influences in there as well. The anarchic sort of interesting character, sort of weird, bizarre characters as well. Just set in this isolated London for now, which is interesting. It's just a concrete jungle, really. That's full of terrorism and everything else, and just like people hating Thatcher. It's just like it's here, of course. So it just works interestingly. And that's really about it, really. There's nothing else to really talk about Fascists 1979. It's just something I just thought up, but I thought, yes, that's really what I need, actually. Something a bit more different, something a bit more relevant, something a bit more punkish, a bit more rebellious. And this is what it is. Thank you guys for watching. As always, see you in the next video, and goodbye.